Hello again. Today I am going to dispel a misunderstanding about what determines whether or not two planets are actually in aspect with one another. And I'll give you a little hint as well as just the answer. It's not about the signs that they're in. It has almost nothing to do, in fact, with whether or not a planet is an aspect. There is one thing that determines whether or not a planet is an aspect, and that is the orb. And the orb is the number of degrees of deviation from the ideal particular aspect that you're talking about. So if that's a conjunction that you're talking about, and your Sun and your Mars are both in the sign of Aries, but one is on the 3rd degree of Aries and the other is on the 27th degree of Aries, although those two planets may share an expressive style, they are not in a conjunction with one another. Okay, they're too far apart because the orb is beyond the acceptable limit for what constitutes a conjunction. So for a conjunction, conjunctions have probably the greatest orb, the largest orb. I would put them at about 10 degrees. If you have two planets within 10 degrees of each other, you have at the very least a loose conjunction where you're going to feel as though those two parts of yourself that those planets represent can't be separated. They're always engaged at the same time with the same themes and the same situations, right? And that itself, it's that feeling that determines, along with the orb, the feeling comes because of the orb, right? The closer the orb is, the tighter it is, the more you're going to feel the effects of that aspect. So that is, in fact, what determines whether or not two planets are in aspect. So I'll use another aspect in my own chart as an example. My moon is in Capricorn, my Mars is in Aries. Now, a noob might look at my chart and say, oh, your moon is in Capricorn, your Mars is in Aries. Those are squared signs. So you have a square between your moon and your Mars. No, wrong. Why? Because my moon is on the 3rd degree of Capricorn, and my Mars is on the 28th degree, 27th, 28th degree, or thereabouts, of Aries. So, they're almost as far apart as they could possibly be while being in squared signs. And in fact, those two planets in my chart are closer to 120 degrees. So, as far as the orb is concerned, I actually have a trine between my moon and my Mars. And let me tell you, from experience, it certainly doesn't feel as though I have moon square Mars. My moon trine Mars has been my saving grace on a number of occasions throughout my life, which is a beautiful thing because I don't need more squares to my birth chart Mars. I have plenty of squares from Mars to other planets already. That'd probably be the knockout punch. I don't think I'd be able to function if I had a real square between Moon and Mars. Fortunately, it's actually a trine. And in fact, when you have a trine, which is usually, but not always, an aspect between planets in signs of the same element, when you instead have a trine, so a nice harmonious, easy flow between two planets in squared signs, that actually gives the trine a very special flavor, a special dynamic where you're a little extra bold and sometimes even obnoxious, but at the very least assertive and confident and willing to take risks that a lot of other people wouldn't take, right? And the same would be true as if you had, quincunxed planets in opposite signs, or if you had squared planets in trine signs, right? That's possible. So look to the orb, the actual angular degrees of separation between the planets, instead of the signs that they're in, to determine if the two planets in question in your chart really are in aspect or not. Hope that clarifies some misunderstandings that you may have had on aspects. I have plenty more aspect videos to come, so stay tuned. You guys have a great day. Cheers.